Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon. I hope you have enjoyed a terrific lunch. We pride ourselves as having the best lunch in sports biz, so I hope that has lived up to expectations. And it's great to see so many of you in the room and some of you watching at home on the Leaders Week Direct platform for the first of our sessions this afternoon here at Leaders Week, here on the Tech and Innovation stage. Artificial intelligence and data science are transforming every aspect of sport, from understanding athlete performance to measuring audience engagement. And today, delighted to say we have two leaders from research and data analytics to discuss how they are using advanced analytics to understand shifts in fan behaviours and their impact on business. Our session, as you can see, is how data science is transforming live sports, and we're going to get a perspective from the NFL, from Bobby Yang, Vice President of Enterprise and Data Science at the NFL, and alongside him from Marketcast, Lyndon Campbell, SVP and General Manager of Sports, Live Events and Brands. So join me in welcoming them both to the stage. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's great to see you both this side of the Atlantic. Glad you were able to fill in all the forms that you needed to do to get here successfully. I think this is going to be a really interesting conversation. Bobby, maybe let's start with you because, well, first of all, it would be really good just to hear a very brief overview of what your job title means. And secondly, I've been told there's an interesting story about how you prepared for today's session, which I think everybody would very much enjoy hearing.
Yes. So in terms of preparation for today, it was really started this morning when I woke up and I was like, okay, what am I going to wear? And so normally I would ask my wife, and fortunately she's in Seattle and it is 8 hours behind. And I was thinking, oh my goodness, it's only 1 a.m. there and she's going to be sleeping and she'll be really upset if I try to wake her up to help me get dressed. And yeah, so I was in desperate need of helping with choices. I called up a friend to ask his wife, and she actually helped me pick what the outfit I wore today. So I hope you all approve.
And Lyndon, same question to you. Oh, should we not do that?
No.
All right. To the second or first part of my question, Bobby, tell us about your job title first of all. VP Enterprise and Data Science, which I would imagine, well, tell me if I'm wrong, a relatively new job title for an organisation like the NFL.
Yes. The data and analytics has been going on for decades in sports. And that's part of the reason why I got into sports, because even from a young age, I was the person looking at the newspaper, looking at all the stat sheets. And the fact that I was able to get this opportunity to work for the league and to help innovate in this space, it was a really exciting opportunity. So my role at the league is really, as my title says, is really enterprise-wide. It's not really specific to a specific group. It's across all the different business verticals. So it's to help provide insights on what data science capabilities can be used for the different business verticals, and also what data assets are available to even help them as well. So whether it's from a third party or if it's from or new technologies.
Good stuff, and we'll dig into some of that in a moment. I'm going to ask you a similar question, Lyndon, about your role. It's worth saying, though, that whether you're in the room with us, and I can see it's standing room only, or watching us from wherever you're watching us, you can send in your questions for this session via slido.com, SLIDO.com, and you can use the code #leaders to type in your question that will come direct to me and this iPad. The other way to do that is by downloading the official Leaders app and clicking on speaker interaction, and that will also come right here. Lyndon, tell us a little bit about Marketcast and where you sit in your role in terms of the whole organisation.
Thanks, Dave. Well, firstly, it's great to be here amongst other people. and not social distance and not behind the Zoom camera, because I've had enough, and I'm happy that we're here doing this. So firstly, grateful for that. Marketcast, 30 plus year research company, really got its foothold in entertainment, right? So working with the big Hollywood studios and helping them really understand how to target audiences around the world. When you're releasing a movie, the cultural, social nuances from China to Russia to Birmingham, England, where I'm from, can be quite daunting. And you have to understand how to reach that target and how to position your movie trailer. So that's how we started, and that was really the essence of fandom. So we evolved over the last 3 decades through really, really deliberate and smart acquisitions to become a full-service research company, which we are today. My role is to lead all commercial operations for our sports and our brands business, and with a keen eye on innovation. And what really excited me about joining Marketcast a year ago was the opportunity to innovate and do so quickly.
And Bobby, at the NFL, you've got this cross-functional role, as you were just talking about. So tell us a little bit more about some of the data sources that you're working with on a regular basis, and actually the ones that you are finding most interesting, and that the league is finding most useful and interesting at this moment.
Yeah. In recent years, especially over the last 10 years, what we consider to be data has changed quite a lot, right? Before it was text and numbers in a tabular structure, but now it's really much more about video content and audio content and images. So these are all things that are now in a digital form. So that's really the biggest change. And then in addition to that, we are always working to get new data sources as well. So a few years ago, we have a partnership to get the RFID tags in the players' shoulder pads, and that allows to get on-field location data. And from there are many business use cases that comes from that. Like, for example, you can identify the speed that a player is running, or how hard or accurate the balls are thrown, and things like that.
And in terms of in fact, we have a question from the audience already.
Oh, wow.
Because I think one specific area of interest that you have an input on and are working on is around the NFL schedule and broadcast schedule. So tell us a little bit about how that's formed and how data science is sort of being used to make that happen.
Yeah, I mean, there are many factors to putting the best schedule that we can at the time that is put together. There are things that we don't know that's going to happen during the season. There could be key injuries or things like that. But at the time when the Super Bowl is completed, we already know what all the matchups are going to be for the upcoming season. And what the scheduling team does is leverage the data science as one of the inputs to differentiate the different schedules that comes through, right? So what makes one schedule better than another? So that's where data science is one of the inputs to the models that they use are leveraged to decide compare one schedule to another.
Lyndon, let's talk a little bit about this term data science and how you see that from a Marketcast perspective. What are some of the ways that you're using techniques and data science as a concept within your business?
I think fundamentally, before data science came, primary research, right? Qualitative and quantitative, and that's very important. What we've discovered is if you can apply that to big data and model it with data science, you have much more impact in terms of what insights you can gather. And if you go back to 10, 20 years, it was great research, but it didn't really connect the dots. And what we're doing and what we're seeing and what we're innovating is really connecting the dots in a holistic way to show how you can attach brand health measures with actual retail behavior. And that's really using a single source approach.
And maybe just expand on that a little bit in terms of how that has evolved over the last few years in particular.
So I think in the last few years, there was a lot of talk around media valuation equivalency. If you're a sports sponsor, if you're a rights holder, if you're a brand, you wanted to understand what's the value of my exposure. And the simplest way, and I was involved in this for many years, was to understand if you compare it to a 30-second spot, what is the value of my exposure, right? And I think that was great, and it continues to be great. But what we're discovering is that you need to connect the dots beyond that to a brand health measure, to an actual retail outcome, a visitation to a website, but do it in a holistic way where you're using a single source panel. So you don't have sort of separate sources of data coming together to tell a story. To have a single source panel provides that sort of accuracy that is very hard to find today.
What about you, Bobby? I mean, point to a couple of examples, if you would, of how the NFL has used data science to achieve a breakthrough.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone here is, or many people here are going to be aware of what the capabilities of data science is now. But really, I think the breakthroughs that we are seeing is really in combining data sets that were not combined before. So an example of that would be our football ops team. Similar to many of the sport websites have like a win probability model, right? That by itself is very cool. But if you combine that with, say, the video footage, right, which is by play, and then you have the win probability model giving you identifying all the important plays, the ones that made an impact on a team's winning the game. Now, if you combine that together, you're able to build things like a highlight reel, right? The other thing that you can do is you can do things, those kind of things on social. So these are the mathematically driven plays that you could put on social. Now, if you push this further, say you have a logo detection algorithm on the video content, right? So now on the video content, you tag saying identifying a sponsorship logo, right? So now you have a data-driven plays that are important combined with video content that has sponsor logos identified. Now you can combine those two, and then you get something that's very unique. It's really so in my mind, it's really the combination of the two. There was an example last season where DeAndre Hopkins caught this incredible catch, and during a game, and it changed the win probability. I think it was like one of the largest swing of win probability of the season. But what was amazing about that video content was when he caught the ball, there was a clear picture of the Jumpman logo on his glove, and so that's really a really cool capability.
And in terms of the from a Marketcast perspective, Lyndon, that kind of information is obviously extremely useful, particularly when you take into account commercial partnerships. What are partners saying to you? You know, is what we're talking about here a response to demand from partners? Would you say is that they're wanting more data, more information, quicker? I guess.
Yeah, it's accountability, right? So I often say the CMO has two hats today: CMO, CFO, right? They have to be accountable to their leadership, to their bosses, and you need actual outcome data that's actionable, that's accurate. And what we discovered again is how do you measure those, and how do you do it in a quick fashion? Because it's not good if the data is going to come out 2 months after the end of the season or 3 months. We're able to turn that data around in about a few days up to a week, and that sort of attribution window and collecting that data is critical.
Just going back to something you said a little bit earlier, brand health measure. Maybe just elaborate on what you mean by that.
So essentially, you know, if you think about awareness, intent, sentiment, those are all brand health measures. Why is that important? Because if you think about engagement, fan engagement, it's not just, you know, what they're buying. It's also how do they feel about a brand. You've all said to yourselves, I feel great about a brand because I see the association probably with a league or a player, and my awareness of that brand, my sentiment to that brand might be heightened. So I think for us, understanding how those brand health measures change over time and how they correlate with an outcome such as sales is very important.
So there's a lot more transparency, there's a lot more accountability. So is that a good thing or a bad thing for a rights holder?
I mean, you can ask Bobby, but what we've discovered working with Bobby and others, it actually helps rights holders, right? If a rights holder can speak to their internal stakeholders and actually properly articulate the value that they're giving to a partner, it becomes a much better conversation. If you're going to renegotiate or negotiate a 9-figure deal, you have to have real data. The partner is not just going to say, it feels good. It wasn't 10 years ago where the CEO loved golf. So the CEO spent all these investments in sponsorship in golf. Today's different. You have to be able to show a partner, if you're a rights holder, the value of your particular act.
Bobby, have you got a view on that?
I mean, there's a lot of demand from our sponsorship partners that they want to have not just consumer insights, which is more survey-based, but then they also want to have an actual measurable lift. I mean, there are things that we do at the league to provide insights on this, and that's really based on combining, again, going back to the idea of combined data that's never been combined before, right? So the league has a patented privacy-friendly way of combining our sponsorship partners' customer data with our league fan data, and from there we are able to answer like simple questions like, people that are our partners, customers, and also NFL fans, what else can we tell them about them? What other NFL behavioral and attributes can we share with them, our partners, so they can leverage that data for their marketing campaigns as well? And this is an area we continue to explore and to develop. And there has been some, through our partnerships, there has been some really innovative work that has been going on. One of them is building from the combined data sets, they were able to we have developed models that they can enrich their own database with. And that's something that's really important for everyone, is to enrich the data that they have. And one is like something simple as the probability of or likelihood to be a NFL fan, right? So from their database, they want to be able to identify the NFL fans, and now they're able to use data science to create those models that can give them that kind of information.
I'm not sure if either of you will have a view on this, but just as you were talking there, Bobby, it got me thinking. On the brand side, are there data scientists working within those big consumer brands at the moment? Or do you think actually, and we'll come on to talk about the future a little bit later, but is that actually something that could be a step in the future that makes this data science use in sport even more powerful?
Yeah, I can probably take this one real quickly. The clients I have on the brand side, we're talking to data scientists, and it helps when you have a team of 60 data scientists on our side, led by a bunch of smart Oxford people, way smarter than I am. But they're talking.
A few flip charts in that room.
I just sort of, sit back and sort of, do the good old smile. But seriously, all right, no, it wasn't that funny. But seriously, we're talking to data science at sponsors, at brands, at partners, and they're attribution focused. One particular client, they have a team of over 100 people in their analytics group doing attribution modeling. And we're able to join our attribution modeling data science and conjoin it with theirs. So we're all speaking the same language. So they're looking at their sponsorship activation assets throughout different leagues, and they're also seeing in near real time how that's impacting outcome. And that's never been done before for sports.
Couple of questions coming in from the audience, specifically Richard. Hi, Richard, no surname. Has the NFL used data sciences to drive content personalization and associated brand activation?
For content personalization, maybe on our .com, that is an area that we are constantly developing. It's really about how to based on what we know of them. If they're authenticated, if we know them well, then there are a lot of things that we can customize with. But if they are anonymous, there are things that we can do as well based on the behavior that they do on our owned and operated properties.
It was Richard from AWS who was asking that question, using the old-fashioned method of waving at me, saying it was him who asked the question. Another question that came in, and I appreciate we're veering slightly from business commercial use to the performance side, but as you talked about, there is definitely some overlap. Andy Southerden has written in to ask, given the importance of player availability in all professional sport, how is data science and AI being used to mitigate injury in the NFL?
Yeah, so there's a whole team dedicated to this, and a lot of the use cases to help with anything that's player health and safety related, those are really complicated problems, right? So what we do is we partner with leaders in that space, or that has the capabilities, and this is something that the league had actually a couple of seasons ago. The commissioner had announced that we had a partnership with AWS to help us with that, and so it's more like getting all the data that's available, and which also includes video content, right? And also the RFID tags, and combining them all to really help improve the safety of the game.
Lyndon, let's talk about, and I'm not sure how specific you can be or would want to be about this, but tell us a little bit, or as much as you can, about some of the work that you are doing specifically with, or maybe not specifically, with the NFL and other leagues.
Right, good question. So I think if you think about what we've achieved in terms of bringing together this platform, holistic brand health measures, outcome data, you're able to answer a variety of questions for clients. And I think one of the leagues that we worked with recently, their big question was around the value of their logo. So obviously you're going to spend, if you're a partner, up to 9+ figures on the investment and the rights to utilize a league's logo. And how do you know if you're not using the logo in an ad, as an example, can I run a regular ad and get the same results against that particular audience? And what we did was we isolated households who were exposed to a sponsor's ad with the league logo. And then we compare and contrasted that to households who were exposed to the sponsor's ad without the league logo. And then lastly, households that were exposed to none of the above. And what we found, especially amongst the heaviest rights holder audience, I won't mention the name.
I'll go on.
What we found was a super incremental benefit in terms of sales that outweighed the investment by the partner. And that sort of insight done in such a fashion wasn't really readily available for at scale. Right? We're talking about almost 20 million households as your starting point for a panel. And a direct match of probably 7 or 8 million between a retail source and the panel. So it's a tremendous database, super granular. You can cross it a million ways, and that's the first time we was able to do.
Here's a good question that has come in, and thank you to Anonymous for asking this one. Is predictive analytics the holy grail?
I think predictive analytics is only one component, right, of what can be done. And the question is how it can be, what the use cases that you're trying to solve are, right? So depending on that, that's really, that drives how predictive analytics is going to be used. For example, our sponsors, right? They want to have as much insight as possible, and we want to help them with their objectives, and it really depends on their objectives. So if their objective could be expand reach, or expand engagement, or maybe something like churn, right? So depending on the objective, I mean, that's how we would decide what predictive analytics can do to help them with their objectives.
Lyndon, do you have a thought on that?
Yeah, I think we've talked a lot about data science, big data, granularity of data, and it's all great today. But where we're going is what you said is really advanced analytics, right? Being able to position an opportunity if you're a rights holder and to say, we know intrinsically if you have these combination of assets, activations, and you push your awareness levels X point, you can expect a particular outcome in sales. That's where we're going. That's the holy grail. But as we amass the data, you're going to be able to do that and work with people like Carolina, who's on the phone in data science. How to say that?
Alex has sent in this question, and it's a timely one, Bobby. As internationalisation has been identified by the league as a major growth driver, how does the NFL use data to identify and convert potential international fans? And obviously we've got the first international series game this weekend back in London, which I know you have managed to secure a ticket for. Yes, good.
Yes, I had to call in favors at very high places to get to secure that ticket. It's quite a high in demand. I mean, there are many things that we do to identify markets that where we can, I guess, first run our business or try to expand our business and growth, right? So first we do a lot of things like it could be things like very broad, like what's the overall sports fandom in that country, right, or in that market. So I mean, so we'll start as high level as that, or actually we start with population, and then from there like the overall sports fandom, and then we gather information on things that are viewership related or sponsorship related to those markets in sports. So those are the ways we, it's more on the foundational insights level that we do.
Another anonymous question that has come in, and if you're a fan of GDPR, this one's for you. How are you addressing GDPR legislation when looking at a revenue attribution from third-party sponsors? Blimey.
Yeah, I wish I had my privacy counselor here today to help me with this one. Generally, we are very conservative in what we do with the data available to us, right? So we are compliant with GDPR for international, for the EU, and CCPA in the US. And we really take the most conservative approach to ensure that that our fans' privacy is secure.
And Lyndon, this is a factor right now for rights holders, as as there is the demand to know more and more about fans. Privacy, security is all important.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, fans trust us, meaning, as a rights holder, a brand, or a market research company, that's all you have is trust and integrity. So for us, being compliant with any sort of privacy regulation is paramount. In fact, in all of our contractual arrangements, we are aligned at the hip with a client to ensure that we're meeting the highest standards of privacy.
We've touched on this already, but let's talk in a bit more depth about the future. What are some of the key data advancements that you are expecting to see in the next few years? Or, Bobby, to put this another way, what are you cooking up?
Yeah, I won't be able to share those secrets with you without a drink or two, maybe three. But fortunately, I'm a lightweight, so it won't cost you too much. I think in terms of the advancements, I mean, what we're focusing on really hasn't changed much, right? We want to understand our fans better, and we want to understand how they're consuming our product, where they're consuming our product, and the more we understand that, the better we can serve the needs of our fans. The other thing we want to do is make sure is data driven as possible. So we have a large fan database, and we have the ability to build mathematical segmentations, right? So and then we also have the ability to with our consumer research team build motivational segments as well. And with that, what we do is that's only really for a small subset. How do you extrapolate that to the entire population of our known database? So that's where data science comes in. We build lookalike models to extrapolate those insights, whether it's going to be quantitative or from research to everyone in our known database. So that's really the area that we focus on for the future.
And as these data sets become larger, and as you're combining them, and as you're using data science practices to get more out of the data, tell us a little bit about the education process, or the things that you're having to do internally to, I suppose, get people who don't understand data science to understand what's useful?
Yeah, well, one of the things that our group does with different business functions, not everyone's like, as you pointed out, not everyone's going to be really data savvy. So that's why we work with all the different verticals very closely, understanding what data assets that they have, and then think about the use cases. And you'll be surprised on the use cases that comes up. For example, I was actually talking to someone earlier today and their company objective is to identify logos on social media, right? We had spoken with them a couple of seasons ago, and the use case that came up was a trademark enforcement group. So these are people that goes on social media and identifies people that are selling counterfeit goods. Well, this company was able to identify logos on that on social media where the logos our marks are being used, and then our trademark enforcement team was able to leverage that to speak with the platform and to shut them down.
Question from Rob Webster. Hi, Rob. And it's one for you, Lyndon. Are any clients using data science to test and model different scenarios in order to make sponsorship decisions?
We're not there yet. We're beginning to get there. We're having early stage conversations around how do you use the data that you're collecting to again discover or ideate on outcomes. But that's where we're going.
And a question from Chris Treese. How much do you trust attribution models when dealing with the impact of partnerships on sales?
I think it's a good question. I think attribution models have definitely evolved. And I think one of the challenges that we had in the past was the granularity of the data, right? So it's only really useful if you're starting from a very, very big base. Because if you're trying to project from a 50,000 person panel or 100,000 person panel, your likelihood for error is going to be much, much greater than if you're starting from a 18 million person panel. So for us, attribution is really beneficial, but it really comes down to how much data are you playing with.
Question from Katie for you, Bobby. Again, moving back to the performance side of things, do you use data sets live in games to define or change team strategy? Is that something that could? Yeah,
that's a great question. That's really more club specific, and they may do that. I have actually less insight because mine's much focuses on more on the league side.
Is that actually, as we move to talk about the future again, I know that there are data scientists working within teams. Would you expect those teams, data science teams, to grow within the clubs as well?
Well, absolutely. I mean, we're constantly, the clubs are actually constantly looking for data science talent, especially with a lot of the data assets that are available, like the RFID tags, which we call next-gen stats. So to process this kind of data, they're very hard problems to solve. So that's why the demand for people with the data science background really comes in, is very valuable. And then even to identify talent, the league has global competitions as well, right? We have the Big Data Bowl, and that's really to not just solve our most difficult problems, but really it's a great recruitment tool.
Absolutely. Lyndon, we asked Bobby for his sort of future thoughts. What are the trends? What are the things that you're looking at and keeping an eye on and you think will be critical moving forward in this area?
Yeah, I think, we've discovered that sports is an entertainment option, especially in the last 2 years, right? So traditional means of sort of breaking out demographics or segments are going away. So I think as we better define what a segment might look like, you're ingesting that much more attributes, which again is not your 18 to 49 demographic that's sold heavily commercially in the States. So I think for me, what's exciting, and we're doing this for one particular league right now, is defining segments that are much more rich and non-sports, non-traditional media-like, and then connecting them back to the big data just to really see how that flow occurs in engagement.
And is your expectation that we are going to see the data literacy of the industry in general sort of rise exponentially?
Oh, absolutely. I think, again, going back a decade or two, if you looked at any sports team in the States, they might have had one person that was part-timing as a research person, right? Maybe sold some sponsorship ads, but also handled all the, syndicated data. The leagues may have had 3 or 4 people in research. All that's changed. So I think as that changes, as they actually have a seat in the C-suite, if you will, data is important. And the commissioners know it, the CEOs know it, and they're leaning in.
Good stuff. We have reached the end, but it's been a fascinating conversation, and I think probably the first session we have done at Leaders specifically on data science, certainly not the last, and it's been a real pleasure to share the stage with you. Bobby, Lyndon, thank you very much indeed.
Thanks, David.
Thank you.